Mike's Daily Podcast.
FF episode 1873, 1873. Finally doing a podcast. It's called Mike's Daily Podcast. And from here I can see the top of a big top that's going on in Podcastro Valley. It's got a bunch of animals and monsters, and they like to dance like a bunch of people with circus pants on. Is it circus pants or genie pants?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Hammer time. No, I don't know what. It's bright yellow and red. Actually, it's a
Mike's
kind of Hispanic
Daily
Latino
Podcast.
Latina circus.
Yeah!
And for more Latino words and so forth, you should listen to the last podcast with my lovely lady friend. But yeah, it's got little flags but with all that gold and yellow, it looks a little more German, and with the red, because like the German flag is red, yellow, and black, as I recall. And this is, well, not. And it's got this fiesta vibe going on. Okay, enough of that. If you are listening to the show because perhaps you went to my Twitter, because I perhaps mentioned it on a radio station, well, then perhaps you are listening now to this podcast and you're going, what is this podcast about? I don't know. That's a good question. It's about a myriad of things and topics, and Mike discussing them with you. And we're going to get a special visit later on in the show. Yes, I'm promoting something at the beginning of my show, like a good talk show host does. We'll hear from Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. They will say something interesting, engaging, somethinging. Oh, do you know what? Last show, my lovely lady friend reminded me after we recorded the show that I had not told the entire story of the...
And here's today's podcast picture.
Tire. But first, here's a lovely place I went to with my lovely lady friend, and I had a picture from it the other day, but a different side of it. It's the Lafayette Reservoir. And you should say reservoir like that, reservoir, instead of reservoir, like some people like to go a little weird. But yes, we discussed that in a previous podcast too. But that is, this picture here is of the actual where the water part is. And this part is interesting because there's this bizarre pile, what is it? I guess it's a tower is what it is. This odd tower that looks like it's way old, sitting in the lake where it's dammed up. Basil. We had Basil with us that day too. And you can see this odd picture. And when I look at this picture, I think, were there steps up to this thing? There's a door at the top. And if you opened up the door and walked out, you would drop about 4 floors down into the water. That wouldn't be fun. You tell me what you think. 336MM Daily. That's 336MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in we do this podcast daily, sort of. As in, I wanted to do one yesterday and suddenly things got really busy and I could not. And then I was so dang tired. And then I got woken up by a dryer of all things. A dryer that it was in the mode of, what is it? Non-wrinkle mode. Do you ever turn that on your dryer? Do you have that on your dryer? It's the non-wrinkle mode. In other words, it keeps it spinning every couple minutes, and it's a total power suck. I probably should not have had that on, but it woke me up at 4:40 this morning, which, by the way, I used to get up at 4 o'clock every morning. And then along came a promotion, and I didn't have to anymore. But I will say, the nice thing about getting up at 4 and getting to your job by 5-ish, and then getting your 8 hours done, it's cool. You got the rest of the day. You're tired the rest of the day, but you can do so much. I used to go to Half Moon Bay. I went down to Santa Cruz one time. But it's working now because, as you heard Basil a little while ago, he's getting older and he can't go on the huge, long journeys. We would walk and walk and walk. I'd go, oh my God, Basil, we've walked for 3 hours. No wonder my feet are falling apart. And now, as I watch McCloud, Shelley Winters is on this episode of McCloud. This was the Dennis Weaver show. Okay, quick story. McCloud features Dennis Weaver. My dad was an extra at Universal Studios. He had a very long career at Universal Studios. He was seen in a couple of movies. He actually had a speaking part in Continental Divide with John Belushi. He had a quick little speaking blurb. And then, oh, by the way, Mira Sorvino's dad is in this particular episode of McCloud with Shelley Winters. And then my dad one day, he somehow got to know Dennis Weaver, who was McCloud. And Dad's no longer around. But I do remember this story that he said Dennis Weaver was extremely nice. And this probably went back to my dad also worked on Macmillan and Wife, which was the same, I think it was the NBC Sunday night movie was where all this stuff came from in the 70s. And I see Quentin Tarantino, who I hate his movies. You might like him. I cannot stand the violence. I cannot stand the dialogue that goes on and on. It's such drivel. And he goes for this look, this nostalgia. That's all. I hate it. It reminds me of the guys that I know that love Quentin Tarantino. I'm friends with some of these guys that love Quentin Tarantino, and after a while, I just go, no, I don't get it. You know what? It's all just the style that I can't stand. Anywho, his new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, looks like it's all 70s stuff. And I would probably watch none of it, but the only reason why I would want to watch it is because of the way they've got 1970s Hollywood and Los Angeles down. I saw a couple clips like the Cinema-Rama Dome. I used to go there with my grandma. I saw the cartoon version of Lord of the Rings there. Yes, they did an animated version of that before Lord of the Rings became huge with the Orlando Bloom and the Peter Jackson movies. But yes, there was, I think I saw Fantasia there. That's right. It was a re-release of Fantasia. I remember seeing The Pink Panther, one of the movies Peter Sellers, very great stuff. But not a fan of Quentin Tarantino. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast, summer podcast for Valentino. You might like him. You must, if you do like him, love violence, because there's just so much violence and gore in those Quentin Tarantino movies. Or you like Brad Pitt, because apparently he's going to be in the next one. And what's his face? The Leonardo DiCaprio has been in a bunch of his movies lately. So, back to Dennis Weaver. Apparently my dad was walking in the back lot of Universal Studios, and Dennis Weaver sees my dad across the street and goes, "Paul!" and actually walked across the street to talk to my dad. I guess my dad used to play cards with a lot of people while they were lining up shots. There's a lot of waiting in the background when they make TV and movies, or there used to be. They used to wait forever. And my dad was a smoker, and a lot of these actors were smokers, so they used to just hang around and smoke and play cards. And my dad used to play cards with Walter Matthau. And then Dennis Weaver, apparently, and my dad were... Although Dennis Weaver, my dad told me, was a health nut. He was very healthy. I think he might have even been a vegetarian. I know he had one of the first few recycled houses. He made a recycled house completely out of soda bottles, Coke bottles, and so forth. That kind of stuff. Bottles, glass, reusable beverage item, glasses, etc. Oh, no. Wait, it was tires. I'm remembering it wrong. It was tires, car tires. That's what I remember. Wikipedia, I'm sure it's there somewhere. So my dad says Dennis Weaver is the only well-known actor that ever went out of his way to talk to my dad. And my dad had known he was Rock Hudson's stand-in for many years until the last year of McMillan and Wife, Rock Hudson went on a total diva rant and fired everybody. Fired Susan St. James, his wife, on the show, and just got rid of everyone, and my dad was included. Okay, back to this amazing story about stuff. Oh, Shelley Winters was in this McCloud episode. Shelley Winters is in the Poseidon Adventure. She dies in it. She's the wife of the guy from Chico and the Man. No, not Freddie Prinze Jr.'s dad, but the guy from Willy Wonka, who is sitting in a bed, is bedridden at the beginning of the movie, living in this really degraded, dilapidated apartment, apparently using a chamber pot with his wife and his in-laws, who are also bedridden. If you've ever seen Willy Wonka, it makes no sense. Anyway, so she dies in the Poseidon Adventure, and that's Shelley Winters. But Shelley Winters, as a kid, Shelley Winters was in everything. Every time you turn on the TV, there would be Shelley Winters. And I did not know who the heck Shelley Winters was. And it turned out, back in the day, when she was younger, see, when I saw her, she was rather large. But back in the day, apparently, she was like this hot, beautiful actress who apparently loved to smoke. She died at the age of 85. I did not know she got that old. Wow. She lived a long life. Good for her. She was in Pete's Dragon back in 1977. Huh. Shelley Winters. Wow. Okay. You might be asking, what's this podcast about today? It's about movie stars back in the 70s and whatnot. Hey, but listen to my podcast, radio show tomorrow on, well, you're listening to the podcast, so I don't have to tell you to do that. But you can tell all your friends about my podcast website, MikesDailyPodcast.com. Hey, look who's out here. Hi, Mark. It's Benita, the rodeo queen. How y'all doing?
It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player, tell you what.
What?
I don't know who the hell Shelley Winters is.
She was the gal. She was on the Love Boat a lot.
Oh, okay, I know who that is.
Look who else is here.
Hello, Mike. I make the delicious root beer. Have some right now. Oh, boy. It's really good. I made a Shelley Winters root beer. Have some or I'll cut you.
Thank you. Oh, it looks like this particular episode had a happy ending. Shelley Winters is like a madam in this. A madam. Oh, there she is. She's dressed so nicely, and she's getting put into the cop car by Dennis Weaver, and he's holding her head down so she doesn't hit her. No, he's not doing that part, but I love how they're claiming they're shooting this in New York, but it's actually L.A. It's pretty obvious. Okay, enough about that sort of looking back at television history and whatnot. Back to the tire story. Speaking of tires and Dennis Weaver and his tire house. So I got a screw in my tire. A big old screw. I drove over it, popped right into my tire, and it stuck. I was able to drive about 14 miles. Actually took about another 7 then to get to Discount Tires. And they replace the tire, or they fix the tire for you if you bought your tires from them. I think even if you don't buy your tires from them. So they plugged up the hole, which was amazing because I thought this thing would have damaged the tire beyond repair. That's what happened. That's the end of the story. I forgot to finish that story, and my lovely lady friend pointed it out. Listen, we were trying to tell you how to deal with anxiety. There's no easy way. My lovely lady friend was a little too shy to say, but it really does take, I think, someone professional who can sit with you and get you through it. You can do some of your own self-help stuff. I can suggest things off the top of my head, but none of it is medically proven. You got to go with the stuff. I think you have to go professional if you're going to fight something like anxiety. Just putting my 2 cents in there about that. Also, what's the deal with people that defend other people that are obviously in the wrong? I'm not going to say specifically who I'm talking about, but you know what I'm talking about. There are people that are so unbelievably guilty of stuff, and we just completely ignore it or make excuses for it. And I think at some point, the truth speaks for itself, don't you? There's this difference between, you know how you fight rumors is with truth. There's the difference between truth and rumors, and in the end, the truth comes out. The truth sets you free, and that is something to always remember. When everyone is burying you with lies, just remember that the truth will eventually poke its head up. It might be a long, hard road till we get to the truth, but we always get to the truth, my friend. Well, that's my hope anyway. That's my very optimistic view. Somebody said to me the other day that you know how they say the system is broken? There was a documentary guy who said that the system's not broken. The system is fine. The system is set up the way it's set up, and it just helps the corrupt people. It was made to help the corrupt people. I can't look at things like that way. I have to be optimistic and feel that it can be fixed. What is broken can be fixed. What is askew, what is unbalanced, very unbalanced, can once again come to balance. At some point, as everything in life is a pendulum, it will be unbalanced again. But you just have to ride it through and know that eventually it will be balanced. The period that it is balanced and good and whole and everything that you hoped it would be may not last that long. It may be a blink, a glimmer, just a bloop. But it will get back there again eventually. That's my hope. I know I'm a bit optimistic, but in life, from what I've seen, this seems to be true. And we take for granted when things are in balance sometimes, and we should really enjoy it and relish it and remember how to get back to it. Okay, I guess I'm pretty much done with my little odd rant. But that's pretty much the end of the show. What do you think? 336MM Daily. That's 3 + 3 = 6MM Daily. And we hope to hear from you. And, of course, you can help out the show through the MikesDailyPodcast.com website. In fact, to tell you more about it, here's Ariel. Next show, it will be Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!